Hey, what's up, guys? Here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. I'm your host, Zach Jackson, and let's get right to the show. I have for you guys today. Welcome to Recap Monday. We are at Season 6, Episode number 10 on the Fire Sports Pod. We are about 2 hours away before the start of Christmas Eve. So, happy pre Christmas Eve to all you out there. And let's get right to the show. We had a bunch of things to get to over the weekend, but we're going to just stick with two things: the college football playoff bracket and how my picks have done, how Irv's picks have done, as well as the NFL standings for each division, the bracket, what we're looking at with a playoff bracket, with the seeding and stuff like that. What teams got eliminated? What were my thoughts on that? And let's get right to it. Irv could not be with us today, our co-host. He is traveling by train to Florida, so he will be back with us on Wednesday or Friday. But most definitely, he'll be on a show one of those days. But other than that, guys, we are still doing a show on Christmas Day. No matter what, we still got to get in the podcast. Let's start with the show. First up, guys, we're going to start with my college football bracket and how well it's been going so far. I mean, the games for college football were absolutely trash. They were all garbage. They were all blowouts. There really was not really a good game. I would say the only good game was Clemson versus Texas. That was really the only quasi good game. Other than that, there really was not any good games. That game was 38-34. Penn State. We're going to start with the first game, which was Penn State versus SMU. I picked SMU to get the upset win over Penn State. A lot of people were picking SMU. I was going to roll with SMU just because of the way they played. I think them losing to Clemson late in that thing at the end of the season, I don't think was their end of their tail. But Penn State really put that question to bed. They absolutely dominated SMU. They had two pick sixes in the first quarter. Right off the bat, that was pretty much it. SMU went down 14-0 like this, and they really could not get anything going. The final score was 38-10, and ladies and gentlemen, SMU did not know what hit them, and Penn State just kept plugging away and pounding the crap out of them, and they just could not have any answer. I think SMU in the future will be good. They're starting to get good, but again, we also have to understand that sometimes these teams are really not that good. We think that they're so good because of their schedule and their record, but we also have to understand that their record also has something to do with their schedule and the teams that they play and how hard those teams are. And in general, we all knew that Penn State played massive and big competition, good competition. SMU, I would say Clemson's probably their toughest foe throughout the entire year in the regular season, and then you ran into Penn State, and look what happened. So the committee's really got to go into thoughts about trying to get the right pieces to be in. But at the same time, there really wasn't anybody else. I mean, there was a lot of other teams, but those other teams had 3 losses. So at the same time, you got to put the right teams in. But maybe at this time of the year, this year, there was really no other team to put in there. I didn't think Alabama deserved to be in there the way they lost. There was a lot of other teams that maybe could have put in South Carolina, but they had 3 losses. Like, if you were going to put a 3-loss team in there, you would have definitely had to put Alabama in there because it's just the way it is. So I think they steered clear of that. I just think that was the right move. All in all, I just think Penn State was just the better team. I only went with the upset because I was thinking, hey, let's go with an upset. But nah, that's really not for me. I should have went with Penn State. My gut was saying Penn State, but I really wanted to go with SMU with an upset because I thought they could win this game, but that I was sadly wrong. Now let's go to the next game where we had Clemson versus Texas. That game was absolutely phenomenal. Clemson had numerous chances down the stretch to win that game, to tie that game, to get that into a one-score game. They went down 4th and goal with about 7 minutes left on Texas's 2-yard line. They could not convert to get the touchdown. And then they stayed down by 14. They had a fumble late. They couldn't capitalize on it. They had an incomplete pass. They had numerous chances in that 4th quarter to come back and win this game, or at least tie this game, or make this a 1-possession game in the closing minutes, but they could not get the job done. Clemson's coached that Dabble Sweeney. He's done a phenomenal job. He's won national champions. He's been great. They had a great run. Their quarterback played phenomenal. I just think their defense really was a lack of heart and dedication. They really lost a lot of their oomph down the stretch of that game against Texas. And Texas was the better team. I picked Texas to win that game, so we got that correct. Like I said, I just think that Texas was just a better team. They were the bigger team. They were a more physical team. They were just a better overall team defensively and offensively. Now the game before that Friday night game, we had Notre Dame versus Indiana. I think a lot of people already knew Notre Dame should win that game. But for me, I was a little scared with that pick of taking Notre Dame, because the fact of the matter is Notre Dame has that type of mentality, has that type of track record of losing to teams that they're supposed to win. In the beginning of the season, they were supposed to win a couple of games of these teams, and I picked with them, and then they screwed it up. So I would say that Indiana had a shot, but I think Notre Dame was overall, like I said, the better team, the more physical team. They played in the better conference, and I think they got the better of Indiana. I think Indiana was a joke the entire year. I just think they played nobody. They did play Ohio State, got smacked by like 20-something. So I would say that was probably the only thing that I would say would be the of the entire playoffs. I did not like Indiana being in there, because I just didn't think that they didn't really deserve it. I mean, they had the record based off of it, but I personally think they didn't deserve it, because the fact of the matter is that they just weren't good enough. You saw them play against an actual quote-unquote formidable opponent, and they got their asses handed to them. So I would say that is the only difference, I would say. But Notre Dame won. Kudos to them, 27-17. Really wasn't a big-time competition there. And then Ohio State versus Tennessee. That game was awesome to watch, as my Buckeyes absolutely trampled Tennessee. It really was not a game from the start. I mean, we went up 21-0 in the first quarter. After that first quarter, it's either make or break. And Tennessee tried their chances. They cut the lead to a close 11 points at halftime. They scored at the end, 21-10 to make it. And a lot of people are, Ohio State's folding. They didn't score the entire second quarter. Whatever the case, I was like, hold your brakes, people. Hold your brakes. Calm down. They're going to come back and score. And sure enough, third quarter came around. They got to stop, came back, scored 21 points in the second half, 21 points in the first half. They were just rolling. This is the Buckeyes team that should have showed up against Michigan. Again, I'm happy actually we lost against Michigan, because we were able to still be in the playoffs and still be able to get into it and play. I think that losing to Michigan was enough for us to really be able to say, hey, we needed to wake up. We need to do things differently. And I think that was our difference. And for us to lose that game and then to come against Tennessee and absolutely obliterate them, and Tennessee having one of the best defenses in college football, that just shows you we're ready to roll. And our next game would be against Oregon, the rematch from the first couple weeks of the season, where we lost by 1 because of a bad decision by our quarterback and bad coaching by our head coach, Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day's coaching for his job. Personally, I really do. I think that if he would have lost and had a first round exit against Tennessee, I think a lot of people would have been calling for his job, and I think he would have been out as head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. So I think he saved his job. I think if he beats Oregon, there are 3 things that Ohio State needs to do in a season: beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and win a natty. They didn't win both of those. And the only thing they got left is win a natty. But if he wins a national championship, all those 2 things go away, and he will be back as head coach next year. Now, overall, guys, the only pick that I messed up on was SMU against Penn State. I would say coming into this coming weekend, on Wednesday, January 1st, next week, we have number 4 Arizona State versus number 5 Texas at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. I'm not going with anybody else. I'm taking Texas. I don't think Arizona State is that good. I'm taking Texas. It's going to be a similar game like Clemson, but I think Texas wins by like 17 or so. Number one Oregon versus number one Ohio State, 5 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. You guys know what I'm going with. I'm going with my Buckeyes yet again to make a statement win in the Rose Bowl. So let's go Buckeye Nation. And then at 8:45 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN, you have number 2 Georgia versus Notre Dame. Georgia has the backup quarterback going. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say this. I don't trust that guy from Georgia, that backup quarterback. Carson Beck is not playing. I'm going to take Notre Dame with the upset. I just think that if Carson Beck was playing, it's a lock. Georgia will win this game. I think Notre Dame beats Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. The fact of the matter is because they don't have a starting quarterback, I like Notre Dame's chances. I'm going to take the upset. I'm taking Notre Dame. I might be totally freaking wrong. They might get absolutely blasted, but I think Notre Dame has the chance to win this game and really put themselves back on the map as one of the best teams in college football and not lose, because to be honest, I think everybody should be betting on Notre Dame because Georgia does not have their starting quarterback. So I'm going to take Notre Dame advancing to the next round. I'm going to take Ohio State advancing to the next round to play Texas. So that bracket is set. It's going to be Ohio State versus Texas to go to the national championship. Then I'm going to have Notre Dame, and I want to go with Boise State, ladies and gentlemen. But the way Penn State played against SMU, the way they really made them look like shit and really made it look like they weren't supposed to even be there, I think as long as you have a plan for Genty, I think you will be fine. The fact of the matter is if you have a plan, and that's the big question, I'm going to roll with Penn State. I think Penn State has a shot to win this game, and I think they will win. But I think it's going to be a close one. I don't think it's going to be like an SMU battle. But don't sleep on Boise State. That could be an upset brewing. But I'm going to take Penn State beating Boise State. I'm going to have Georgia losing to Notre Dame. I'm going to have Notre Dame versus Penn State for the to go to the national championship, where again, it's going to be a close one. That's my picks. I'm going to have Notre Dame versus Penn State, Ohio State versus Texas to go to the national championship, and we'll let you guys know after next week what our picks are for those two games, and we'll recap what happened next week. All right, guys. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday this week for some more stuff. But next week will be the week, guys. Wednesday and Tuesday. Tuesday is Boise State at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. December 31st. That one's going to be a good one. Wednesday, January 1st is the three-team classic. Got the Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Sugar Bowl. So we'll be right there watching those games closely on that Friday. On that show on Friday, which will be January 3rd, we'll be having our debate on whether or not my picks went through correctly, Irv's picks went through correctly, and if so, who we got going to the national championship the following week. Stay tuned to that. That will be happening next week. Now, guys, we kind of went into a deep dive of college football and what happened over the weekend. Now I'm going to shift to the NFL, where we have a lot of news to get to when it comes to the seedings behind all these damn teams. So let us go right into it, and I got you with it in just a sec. All right, so Super Bowl licks in New Orleans. Let's get right into it. We're going to take a quick short break, and I'll be right back with you in just a sec. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going over who clinched a playoff spot already for the AFC and the NFC, and who is looking for in the hunt, like at the wild card right now, and then who is outside of that looking in, and then who got eliminated. So right now, the Chiefs locked in. They are on a monster run. They're 14-1, first in the AFC West. Their next opponent will be against the Houston Texans. Actually, no, they just beat the Houston Texans. Now the Bills, they just came off a win against New England, a close one. They're 12-3, first in the AFC East. Steelers just beat they even though they lost to Baltimore, they still it's a 1-1, so they get, I believe it was the points or something, I forgot. But they're 10-5, first in the AFC North. Conference wins. That's why the Steelers have, I think, more conference wins. Number 4, Texans. They're 9-6, first in the AFC South with a 9-6 record. And then the Ravens, they're fifth, second in the AFC North with a 10-5 record. Now for the NFC teams that are locked, Lions, they are 13-2, first in the NFC North. Eagles, even with the loss to Washington, who kicked out a couple teams, they're 12-3, first in the NFC East. And the Vikings, a surprise, they are fifth, 13-2, second in the NFC North. So they locked up a spot in the NFC. Now we'll be taking a look at the teams that are in the hunt, which basically are in the wild card. You have two teams that are in the wild card for the AFC, and really it's all about the Broncos. If the Broncos lose, then this really opens up the the area for the Colts, Dolphins, and Bengals. Basically, the Bengals have to win out. They have to have the Dolphins lose. They have to have the Colts lose one of their games. They have to have the Broncos lose one or two of their games coming up. So basically, the Bengals have like a 6% chance to 7% chance to currently make the playoffs. Dolphins have a 9, and Colts have a 14% chance. Everybody else has 76 is Broncos, 94 is Chargers. Chargers are not going anywhere. They're second in the AFC West behind the Chiefs. And the Chargers, if they can beat Denver this week coming up, it's really just a lock. So we'll see with the Chargers winning. That's what dropped the Broncos down this week as they beat the Broncos. So if the Broncos lose one or two of the games, they open up the bubble for the Colts, Dolphins, and Bengals. But Bengals still have a shot, a legitimate shot. They just got to win out. All three of these teams got to win out. If they don't win out, they're done. So that's basically it. The Broncos have a little bit of a leeway, but it would be ideal for them to win their last two games, because if they do, then they're a lock. If they lose one of the two or lose both, then all three of these teams have a shot to take their spot. The Chargers, basically, they just got to win one game and they're set. Now for the NFC, it's still close. We have the Rams, Falcons, Packers, Commanders. Rams are 9-6, first in the NFC West. They're having 86%. They're making the playoffs unless something drastic happens in that division. The Falcons are 8-7. They jumped the Buccaneers as the Cowboys really just kind of diminished their chances. The Bucs at first place. The Falcons just control their destiny. They just got to win out and they'll be fine. They'll take first place. The Bucs really just folded it, man. The Cowboys really came to play last night and got the dub and really pushed away the Buccaneers' chances of really going high. Packers, if lose, they're 98%. Current, they're 99%. If they win, 99% playoff probability. So basically, they don't got to win anything. They're making the playoffs. They're 10-4, third in the NFC North. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're killing the Saints right now. They're up 34-0 against the Saints. So they're going to be turned into 11-4. So they're not going anywhere, even though they're third in the NFC North. So just imagine, they're third. They're in the division with the Lions, Vikings, but they're going to make the playoffs as a wild card team just because of the division that they're in. But they're playing phenomenal football. And the Commanders making a monster win against the Eagles, coming back in that game from down 2 touchdowns, winning that game. They turned the ball over 5 times, the Commanders did, and they still won that game. They knocked out 2 big NFC teams that were in the playoffs last year. They are 10-5, second in the NFC East. Their current playoff probability is 94%. Basically, if they win one of their 2 last games, there's really they're really making the playoffs no matter what. They can lose both their games. Nobody in the NFC East is winning. They just got to make sure they keep themselves in the float with these other teams. So really can't lose 2 straight. Wouldn't be ideal. But the fact of the matter is the Packers are definitely in. The Commanders could lose both games because there's really only 2 other teams. But the Bucs then would win 2 games, and the Seahawks will win 2 games. Then there's a bit of a chance. So if the Commanders at least win one of their 2 games, they'll be a lock. But the teams that are on the bubble, that are on the outskirts, that are in and not in the playoffs right now are the Buccaneers for the NFC, the Seahawks for the NFC, and that's really the problem. The Bucs really fumbled the bag last night against the Cowboys, which they really could get the job done, and they could have had firm control over their division. They couldn't get the job done. Now their current percentage is 52, still high, over 50%, but not where you would want to be, especially 2 games before the end of the NFL season. Seahawks, same thing. They're in a very tough division. They currently have a 14% chance to win, to get to the playoffs. So they're really in a tough spot. I would definitely say that the Seahawks are really just in the moment, are have a tough division. They're in the Rams division. The Cardinals are out. They lost to the Panthers over the weekend, and they lost their chances of competing for a playoff spot. So basically, the Bucs just got to win out, and they'll be somewhat in. I don't know who they'll be kicking out. They'll probably be kicking out the Rams, depending on what happens. If the Rams drop 2, they're done. And I think the Buccaneers win 2, they'll be in. There's a bunch of crap that could go on. But most of the thing, the AFC is weird. The Colts, the Dolphins, and Bengals is a hard one because that really just depends on the Broncos. And really, that's it. Everybody else is a lock in the AFC. The NFC is still a little wide open with nobody really clinching a spot in that much in their divisions. The Rams, Falcons, Packers, Commanders, Bucs, Seahawks are all in this really same boat. The only team that I would say is not in that boat is the Packers. Commanders still could lose 2, and they'll still be at 10-7. Falcons win 2, they're 10-7. Rams win 1 and lose 1, they're 10-7. And then the Bucs win 2, they're 10-7. Seahawks win 2, they're 10-7. So everyone could be 10-7. The Packers the only team that could only be 10-6, 11-6. So there's really no problems with the Packers per se, I would say. So there's definitely a legitimate shot for the Bucs or Seahawks to make a move. They just really need a lot of things to go in their favor. But all in all, guys, I really think that the playoffs are, even though my team, the Cowboys, are not in it, sadly, they got eliminated yesterday because of the Commanders' win against the Eagles. So the Eagles kind of screwed my Cowboys with losing, but it didn't really matter because we really didn't deserve to be there. But yeah, the Commanders' win bumped the Cowboys out of playoff contention and the 49ers. And to be honest, we are playing really well over the last couple weeks. But if we didn't lose to the Bengals, we'd be 8-7 right now. And that's a different story. And then we're right in the thick of things in the playoffs. And we just literally have to win the last 2, which is first thing. It's against our division rivals in the Commanders and the Eagles. Eagles first, Commanders second. So we really could have made a big dent and really pushed some teams down below. So even though the Cowboys are not making the playoffs, we can still play spoiler a little bit when it comes to playoff seeding and really messing up our division rivals in the Commanders and the Eagles. So I'm still locked for that. I'm rolling with my Cowboys the last 2 weeks of the season, no doubt, without a doubt in my mind. But Jets are out. They've been eliminated. They've been eliminated for a bit. Cowboys are now out. Browns are out. Cardinals are out. They lost to the Panthers in a bad one, man. James Conner got hurt a late third quarter, and they really couldn't get nothing going. They had to throw the ball, and they just had no answer. Had absolutely no answer. So Cardinals are out. Jaguars are done. They've just been abysmal this year. Injuries. Browns, same thing. Chubb again, broken ankle. Just sucks. Jets were just an embarrassment this year. They just couldn't get anything going, man. They were such high hopes. I wish they were much better than what they put out there. I thought they were going to have a good year this year. It just did not pan out. Cardinals, same thing. Cardinals really surprised a lot of folks, and then they just, the last 5 weeks, Kyler Murray has just been straight trash. 49ers just been dealt with injuries all year. Same with the Cowboys. Cowboys just coaching-wise and injury-wise just were not there this year. Titans, they're in a rebuilding stage. They have no quarterback. They're just absolutely trash. Saints, I don't know what's their problem. They really can't just get anything going. They can't find a quarterback. Derek Carr is not the answer. They don't have competent wide receivers other than Chris Olave, which was out and out with injuries. Raiders, they're an abysmal fraud. They need a new tight end. I mean, a new quarterback, but badly. Bears, I just think they had bad luck this year, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. I think the Bears had a really good year. I think Caleb Williams surprised a lot of folks. I don't think he did as bad as I thought he was going to do, but still not as good as everyone expected him to be, but still not as bad. So I give him kudos to that. I just think they had a strain of bad luck, man. There was a couple games that they should have won during the year that they couldn't get the job done. So I would definitely say the Bears are going to be in it for the future. Patriots, I think they got a great young quarterback. Drake May is the future. He reminds me a lot of a little bit of eh, I wouldn't go on a limb here, but he reminds me a little bit of like a good time management quarterback. He understands the pocket presence. He'll get outside the pocket. He'll make some plays with his legs. He's a very good, solid quarterback and a guy that's not going to do everything he can to win the game, but he's going to do everything possible to get the job done. And in Patriot Nation, in New England, in Foxborough, that's all you ask for. Tom Brady didn't do extraordinary thing. It's not like he ran for 100 yards in a game. It's not like he took it upon himself and trucked multiple people. There were certain times he did that, but he was just a pocket presence guy. He created the plays. He learned how to do his checkdowns, whatever. I see a little bit of a Tom Brady / maybe a Eli a little bit in there. He's a very good quarterback. I think the Patriots have a very gem of a quarterback, and they should be very excited for the future ahead. I just think they just need to put pieces around him. Panthers, I think they found their quarterback. Bryce Young is that guy. They just need to give him a chance. And you saw it this year. After they benched him, he came back with a different mindset, ready to roll, ready to get to work. And you saw the difference, the leaps that he made. The Panthers are going to be a good team in the physical future. They just have to get a better offensive line. They have a good running game. They have pretty good wide receivers. They can get one or two guys to really help out Adam Thielen. Their tight end is not bad. Their defense needs a lot of work, but they're not half bad. Their last couple weeks, they've been playing against formidable opponents, and they really have not played that bad. So I would say the Panthers are in something. They got something going for them. The Giants, they're just trash. They're absolutely horrible. They're similar with the Jets. They have a bunch of problems. I think the Jets just underachieved. They really played just poorly. The Giants just have no help, no answer, no future. They need to get a quarterback in the draft. They either better get Ward from Miami or they better get goddamn Shador Sanders. If not, they're going to be fucking terrible. There's a chance that they might not even get that first round pick. They could drop to the 7th, depending what happens the last game of the season. So we'll see. Does the Eagles play to get Shoyk the record, or do they let the Giants win and then the Giants lose out on their draft pick? We'll see what happens coming down the line. But there's a lot of stuff to get to, guys. I just think that we basically covered all the stuff when it came to the playoffs, the seedings, where I'm looking at the playoff picture. Obviously, at the end of the season, right after the end of the season, we'll go over the actual playoff bracket and see where we're at. But right now, guys, it's looking pretty nice. The playoffs are looking really good. I know my Cowboys are not in it. We didn't deserve it this year. I'm going to be the first one to tell you there was no way we deserved it. We had too many injuries. We just could not get it consistently. We're playing really good now, but a little too late. I mean, who knows? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. If our guy doesn't touch the ball against the Bengals, we're in the playoffs right now. We're rolling. We're 8-7. We win the last 2 games because I'm telling you personally, I think we've already beaten the Commanders. I know a lot of people say that was luck, but we've beaten them. We played well enough to win that game regardless of all that luck. I think we could have beat them, and I think the showdown against the Eagles next week would have been a very good sight to see, especially with the Jalen Hurts concussion. It would have been something, but hey, we could still make spoiler, so I'm going to still root for my Cowboys. But damn, the playoffs are looking pretty nice. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much it for Recap Monday on this great And Monday night, we are currently at 11:14 on December 23rd. We are 45 minutes away from Christmas Eve. Again, guys, happy Christmas Eve out there. I'll see you guys on Wednesday on Christmas Day. Have a great Christmas Eve with all your families out there. Have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Early Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys on Wednesday for season 6, episode number 11. This again is season 6, episode number 10, powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. I'll catch you guys on Wednesday. Again, have a great Christmas Eve and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Peace out, guys.